Hello, and welcome to OnSurviving. My name is Meagan, and I'm a survivor.
And my name is Noblelee, and I am a survivor.
And together, we're bringing OnSurviving to the world because it matters.
It matters to me because alongside the potent fears of our frail hearts is so much hurt, loss, and trust issues that I often had to navigate through all alone with very little resources and zero trust. I am passionate about doing this project because I get to tell my story and be that trusting person to help navigate through the resources that I never had and hopefully make a difference in people's process of surviving.
It matters to me because I want others to recognize the deep strength and rich humanity involved in every step in the process of surviving the tragedies life brings many of us. I suffered silently and alone for too long, and I want to help others to find hope more quickly and readily and feel and be less alone in the process of surviving.
Yes, OnSurviving matters. You matter. We matter.
All right. Well, welcome everyone, and really happy to be here today, especially because we're kind of going back to our roots today. We are talking about our paths, Noblee's and mine, our paths to and through addiction and recovery. So, as I said, for going back to our roots, it's just going to be the two of us for the first time in a really long time. Yeah. And this is how we started. And, we wrote our pieces on this topic. And then we read what each other had to say and came up with some questions to ask each other. And that's going to be our conversation today. And this came about as a new idea. We were originally going to have a story episode, as I mentioned last time, but unfortunately some things came up and we aren't able to have that guest on this time. As it happens, it's a really good time to be talking about this topic, just Noblelee and me, because we are both celebrating our sober birthdays this time of year. For me, I hit a big one, the 10-year mark on February 19th. And Noblelee, share yours.
And I'm hitting my 4-year mark on March 19th, just right around the corner.
Yeah. Congratulations to us both.
You too. A decade. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's honestly, I think all of our stories, honestly, even before recovery, just our survival alone is pretty freaking amazing. So, and I'm actually hoping that will come out a little bit in our conversation today. And any big hopes for you for the conversation today, Noblelee?
I just think I want our listeners and anybody who is struggling currently or has struggled in the past to just to get some hope out of where we were and where we are now, and to hopefully to get some techniques on, what happened or what did help for us, and hopefully, get something that they could use and put in our toolboxes, of tools to get us through these difficult situations. Because when you're in the thick of it, for me personally, I just don't know what to do. Often I just don't know what to do. And so it's just really nice to because the women before me that I paid attention to when I needed to get help is what got me along. And so I'm just hoping that somebody will hear something from one of us today and we could be that woman to help them along and make their process of surviving easier.
What you were just saying really struck a chord, because I was talking with somebody else recently who has about 3 years into sobriety herself. And she told me that actually what started it for her was she was reading in somebody's blog online, somebody who had a really similar story to hers. And she thought, okay, you know, like shame decreased and she thought I can do this. And yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I do hope somebody does come along, find us, who may be in need, and see a way forward, especially
Yeah.
because, like you said, that toolbox thing, this person I was talking to, that I was just mentioning, she also really resonated with this idea that what we do is we reach for the tools that we know, right? When we're in crisis, we reach for what we know. There isn't time to get educated, or we're not in that headspace to, figure shit out
Mhm.
and find the way forward. And sometimes that takes us down a road we get stuck in for a while. So
Yeah.
luckily, we both found out that that didn't have to be stuck forever. So
Well, and shifting just a tiny bit really quick is you didn't know me from the man in the moon, and I certainly didn't know you from the man in the moon when we were brought together to do our very first project together. And in that conversation, we learned all these insane similarities that we had between us. And who would have known, 3, 4 years later, that we would be each other's strength when dealing with anniversary death dates and recovery hangups and just life in general. But because we took a chance on a project or something that we'd never done before, or I hadn't, and we were vulnerable, like we are here on these episodes, we were vulnerable, and out of that became like healing that I don't think either one of us could be possible. And it's the same thing. It just may be somebody going through a struggle, or maybe not at the moment, but they just click on us for a second. And during that very second, they hear, because our higher power does work that way. They, click on in that very, very minute, and you just happen to be saying just that thing that may be the thing that sticks with them. So that's why I just think this is amazing altogether. So I just wanted to add that on a little bit of our backstory, because who would have thought?
right. Absolutely. I remember, I will always remember that first meeting, and
Yeah,
how it just blew my mind, my heart wide open. And
yeah,
every
ditto.
and you're right, it has made everything better since this
Yes,
connection. So
yeah,
thank you for that.
yeah. You're welcome. Thank you.
So of course, we always like to remind folks that we really do try to speak as frankly as possible. And sometimes that might mean saying something that would trigger some trauma in somebody else. And so, if this is true for you, we really want you to take care of yourself as much as needed. I'm going to go ahead and put on the screen here just some different uh, crisis lines that you can contact. You can call or text, whichever is more comfortable for you. And here, hold on. Let me just go ahead and get this up. Yeah, so you should be able to see that. I mean, honestly, we just want you to take care of yourself the very best you can. If there's somebody that you cherish nearby that you can turn to for support, that's wonderful. And, uh, and sometimes we know that that isn't always possible, and or not always comfortable. And so there's a whole bunch of different options that you can check out. 988 is the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and you can see there that it's both in English and Spanish. And then there are other lines as well. Another, the Trans Lifeline, Veterans Lifeline, LGBTQ Crisis Line, and there are others too if you Google them. But here's a few just to get you started. And really, the if you can remember nothing else, 988, text or call. People, volunteers are there, compassionate, ready to listen and help you with whatever may be coming up for you. So, shall we get into it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I am going to start off with, I don't know, I guess one thing that is always coming up for me when I think about our stories, and of course came up again in reading our articles this time, is that both of our stories really begin with trauma. And not just trauma, but inadequate care, right? So I often think that, when I hear stories and when I think about my own, what could have been better, what could have changed the course of my path, could have been way back at the beginning when I was a kid and needed help. And, my folks really tried, but, they were doing the best they could. And it happened to be the therapist that, we tried wasn't good. And, you know, the path was what it was, and I am here a full and whole human being as a result of all of those things that happened. So that said, I am very, very aware of both of our stories beginning with trauma and that inadequate care to help us weather the trauma. And we both used drugs and alcohol, at least in part, to help us manage that. And I really thought, Noblelee, that you did a beautiful, and I'm curious if it was painful to write. I mean, or if it's just so integrated in you, if it's not. So you might want to comment on that or not. But when I read it, you just did this great job of really detailing the steps along your path to and through addiction. And I also realized that after writing mine, that I was pretty vague about that part of my story. So it occurred to me that I think I still harbor a lot of fear about the consequences of sharing those details.
Yeah.
And not so much in my social life, or just meeting people out in the world, in my family. Everybody knows the depths of my story, but the reality is that the work that I do, there may be people that don't want to hire me. In fact, the friends and colleagues, when we were first deciding to do this, said, well, are you prepared to possibly not get work because of people knowing the story, even though it makes it, this is has been the truth of my existence, whether they knew it or not. And I have always done this great work. But the fact of the matter is the stigma that comes with it could get in the way. And I have noticed even some colleagues distancing themselves from me since we started doing this. And so that said, I honestly, I don't want to be shackled by that. I would much prefer to free myself and rise above that fear and just let be what will be. If, for instance, I that work isn't just going to be an option for me anymore, so be it. So there you go. I turn the results over to God, and I guess a couple of things is, one, I'm wondering if first you wanted to comment on that comment about that I had about your story, and whether or not it was, how it was for you. Was it painful, or did it just really just like, is it so just part of you that you just were able to pour it out? So that's part one. And the other part is, as you read mine, noticing that I didn't have those details in there, is there anything that you think would be helpful for me to be more frank and open about, if folks out there may be struggling and it may benefit them to hear and understand those details?
Great. To answer your first question, It varies on how writing out or telling my story affects me. This particular time, it was very, very hard and painful because I had recently had a session with my therapist about one of the more traumatic ages in my life that kind of started my addiction. And so when I wrote this, it kind of brought everything back a lot. And so it was kind of painful this time to write, but maybe next time that I tell her to write it, it might not be, because it just has, I have told it a lot. So this time it was painful though. And then as far as the second part of your question, there is a lot of stigma around addiction. And so I have mixed feelings about it. I don't think that you have to pour every detail out of your story to make a difference and to help somebody. And the reason I say that is because as you read by my piece, I was a intravenous drug user for quite some time. And with that comes scars. Scars on your arms and scars on your body. And to this day, almost 4 years sober, if I go and get a blood drawn, before people see me and they think, oh, well, she's nice looking and she's put together and they're bubbly and oh so kind, and how was your day, and all that. And then the minute they go to say, what arm do you prefer? And I have to say, well, they're both usable, but there is some scar tissue, without even knowing if maybe the scar tissue is because I donated plasma, or maybe it was from chemo, which I did have cancer, but that's not what it was from. But anyway, instant change of the way I get treated, instant change because of that. And so that worries me for people that are, they have a field, a business like you have, and, things like that. So that part of it makes me, not for myself, because mine's just out there so much, but for other people, it makes it kind of scary for me,
So, can I ask you what, when that happens, like when you go to the doctor's office, how does that, I mean, did it affect you, or you just like steeled against it
No,
already? How do you cope with that?
it breaks my heart. And I look at them and I said, we have a past, but just so you know, I've been clean and sober for, 4 years or whatever. Sometimes I'll say that, sometimes I'll just clam up, but almost every single time I have a blood draw, I have to call my sponsor directly after, because I'm freaked out. I'm freaked out by the way I was treated. I'm freaked out by the fact that I've done so much work, crawled out of the pits of hell, literally, to get clean and sober. And people like that are still going to make me feel some sort of a way. Shame me. They shame me.
Yeah.
And
really shame on them.
I know, but it's like it almost takes the wind like right out of my sails. And so I just think, as far as your piece and your story, I personally think that what people need to know is the trauma that brought you to drinking, which was your sexual abuse. That doesn't define who you are. None of that was your fault. And there's absolutely no spot and no reason to harbor any shame and guilt from that. You are not your trauma, and you are not your disease. That was a defense mechanism that you had no choice, that you were forced into have this defense mechanism to get you through this traumatic event. And that's the story that needs to be told, that we are not our trauma, and we are not our addiction. That's not what we are, and that's not who we are. And another thing I would say is find your tribe. You, as a young girl, went and tried to tell the one person in the whole wide world who should have believed you and who had your back but did not. And so we got to find our tribe. We got to find who is going to believe us, whether that be somebody on the other end of that 988 line, or somebody else, that anybody that you feel like you can connect with. Because I think that had either one of us had that support that we so desperately needed, it may or may not have changed the path, the fork in that road for us. It may or may not.
Right.
But
When we may have needed to go through our own,
right,
trenches on our own, regardless.
right,
I in my piece where I talked about, you know, telling this person I just need to fall down for a while.
yeah,
That was the best way I could explain it. By
yes,
that point in my life, I had been to therapy before. To deal with the sexual assault stuff, I had,
right,
and I just didn't feel like I had what it took to
right,
take another path at that moment. And that was it. That's where I needed to be. And, like I say, I'm not like encouraging people to go down my path, but I also,
no,
honestly, if it's just me, it's just me and you, it's just me and, in the world, I don't honestly feel ashamed anymore. I did,
right,
but
yeah,
sometimes in that like reflection with other people, right? Like it's not like you can go, oh, but here, let me tell you all why and help you, make you understand me.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I mean, you just have to like find a way to go, it's I'm okay with me, and if this is not okay with you, I guess this relationship doesn't matter, whether it's a personal relationship or a professional one, or
right,
frankly, like, so you're talking about going to the doctor. I had, I have had a similar struggle with going to the dentist, because that's where my choices really show up, is actually in my gums. And that my teeth have been compromised, and every time I go, like, I just moving here to Texas in the past year meant I needed to get a new dentist, which meant I needed to go through it all over again. My dentist that I had in Colorado was awesome. With the one I ended up staying with for a number of years. But at first, what happened when I went in there is they were being really hard on me and like appalled at the state of my mouth. And I was like, and I'm just like bawling. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And I just have to, like, this is because I lost my kid, and I was, and I didn't tell them all of the addiction stuff, but I said I was extremely depressed, and I did not take good care of myself at all. And that's the result of that. And they ended up working with me so well over time. But now that I've been in Texas, I haven't felt like I really wanted to tell them why my mouth is the way it is. And I go in each time with, and by the way, it's a new person. This happens, I'm going to have to find a new dentist, because I go in
yeah,
and it's a new hygienist and a new dentist every time. The constant rotating staff, which means,
yeah.
like,
You
if
have
I
to do it
tell
over and over.
over
Yeah,
over again, and it's just
yeah,
like, so now I go in and I end up being, frankly, not a very nice person. I have to, like, I was asking you about stealing yourself. I go in like, I am not friendly. I am like, I'm going to get through this. I'm just like basically just charging in. I'm going to go in, and I've basically got my armor up, because I know they're going to sit there and be judgmental about but they don't even know about the addiction, like, right? So it's just like the results of it.
Yeah, I can relate to that because when I have to go get a blood draw, I'm almost like just strutting in there, just like waiting for just to be judged and made feel horrible. And I don't carry that shame anymore. I'm very proud of where my life is now. And I was an addict for 25 years, and the only time I feel shame is when I go, man, I'm going to be 50 years old in a couple of months. If I would have just stopped earlier, then I would have all this more time. And
Oh,
that's the only time where I start feeling a little bit of, but like you had mentioned earlier, like here we are. And I feel like I needed to go through some of that to be where I am here on the other side. So,
right.
yeah.
Well, and I guess, yeah. So we clearly both have some work still to do around this stuff. Luckily, I don't know about for you, but I mean, it gets better. It does get better. All of those little things. Those are just like, it's like housekeeping, right? Like I'll clean that part of my closet,
Yes,
not in my way. I'm able to do life fine.
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
not
and
taking
it's
me.
progress, not perfection. No matter where you are in life, whether you're an addict or not, like we find new things out every day. And when you're used to masking your emotions and stuff and being in always on guard and always just you know it's you learn as you get in recovery the things that you know that you may or may not need to work on. But it's not like it's just so much better. It's so much better to know um that you can get through it you know
Yeah, for sure. For sure. This stuff doesn't have to be in the way. And the other thing I did want to say too is I just, for anybody who's coming across this, I don't want my concerns about, impacts to work be like this dread in somebody else, right? For me, it was a big hurdle to get over, even to take steps to take care of myself, to get sober, and to go through what I needed. And that meant stepping away from the work I usually do. And that was perfectly fine. Started a house cleaning business with another woman in the program with me, and it was great. It's what I needed to get by. Other people in the program also helped me get other work to help, pay the bills. And that was awesome. And I like your story about your work that you were able to get. I mean,
I was just going to say that. Who would have known that my career choice, what I want to spend the rest of my work life doing, the only qualification, well, not the only, but the biggest qualification is lived experience.
yeah, amazing,
Ding,
right?
ding. I got that. And people find me so relatable because I go to help somebody and I'm like, let me tell you, I fully understand. I've walked through that and I meet you right where you are because guess what? I was right where you are 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that is amazing.
yeah. Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, I have one other. Well, not one other. We both have a bunch of other questions, but I have another question before I hand off to you for a question or two. And this again, thinking about our stories here, one big difference in our stories that really comes out in yours is meth use. And I refer to drugs, but that was not one of the ones that came that I ended up using. Right. And it occurred to me as I'm reading it, like it, and as I've thought about over the time that we've known each other, it just wasn't something that really showed up in my experiences. Actually, frankly, one time it showed up because a friend, I thought it was cocaine. and then after I was like, oh my God, what was it? Like,
Yeah.
what's that? Like it burns so bad.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah.
And then he told me, and I was like, what are you doing? But anyway, so that was like the one, like, and that was a long time ago, like on a weekend, like partying thing. So um I I also have thought that, it's partly because, and I knew actually from that one experience just how like not compartmentalizable
Yeah.
that is, right? Because it lasts for so long, and I was really aiming for compartmentalizing it. And so I would use cocaine, which is more expensive. And I was able to access that and still be able to work. So, and I think I kept it more of a, at least the way I thought about it in my head was that it was more of a party thing for me, right? And that but we used to joke about the special occasions getting, coming more frequently and getting less and less special,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Right.
definitely happened after Jasmine died, and as a part of my that kind of spin out with my drinking, and my recklessness ratcheted up at that point. So I really think of like these two like big phases in my drinking career, in my addiction, that where pre Jasmine, it felt a lot more kind of fewer and was fewer and further between, and I never really thought of it as an issue. And then later, after her, I could see, like I said, I was able to note I'm falling down right here, and I was still able to compartmentalize for a while, but again, that kind of guided some of my choices. And anyway, well, one other thing I guess I want to say before I get to my actual questions to you is I have wondered at times, like, if my experience in those substances that were available to me, if that had to do with some of the systemic racism in our country, and if it's any of it is related to my whiteness, frankly, as if by design. And I don't honestly know, and it's a question mark on my mind, and maybe we can dive into it more at some other time, or now too, whichever we want to do. But I just wanted to put that out there because it is, when I think about this, it is a question that has been on my mind. So that said, when I read your piece, these words really jumped out at me. You said, before long, I was snorting meth every other day. I felt damaged, scared, and alone. Those words really stuck out. It struck me really hard that you tried this early because your mom handed it to you. I'm wondering if you will talk a little bit more about what this was like for you, and what was different or the same about it that like really made it such a prominent part of your experience.
Um, I think that I was very damaged and lost and hurt at that age already, and I think I wanted to, like, almost as dysfunctional as it sounds, almost I wanted acceptance from my mom. Even if that was the thing that was going to bring us together was drugs, at least something was bringing us together. So initially it was like, well, it's good enough for mom. And I kind of thought my mom was cool. She was running with the bikers. She had this fun, party life, being the cocktail waitress at the biggest biker bar in Sac, and all these cute bikers always coming over. And it, to me, as a little 14-year-old, looked like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Limos coming, taking her to Tom Petty, like all of it just seemed so cool to me. And
Yeah.
so initially it was like I wanted acceptance. I wanted my mom to think I was cool, if you will.
Yeah.
And then as I started getting hooked, it didn't take very long, because as I wrote, like I did such a huge amount that it was like it's such a powerful drug that it didn't take long. But then I realized I had all this energy to keep up with my sisters that I was trying to raise, and I was skinny, and all these things that for a young lady like that, it's glamorous.
Right.
I don't. But then once became addicted, it was all fun while I was high, but then the come down came in, and that was the scary part for me. But it wasn't scary enough for me to not go back and stay there. Like it almost had a grip on me from the word go.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be accepted wherever I could. And I certainly wasn't accepted with the popular kids. And I certainly wasn't accepted with the smart kids, but I was always accepted by the dopers and the misfits and the stoners and the meth users. And I was always accepted. I was the queen of them. I mean, I was running that
I
shit.
bet you were a badass
I was.
then.
so so then after that, it just, before I knew it, like it had a hold on me,
Yeah.
and the drug was doing me, and I was no longer doing the drug.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, that makes so much sense. And it also
Mhm.
occurred to me too, thinking about this, like thinking about your mom, and right. So we think about all of us, like you and me and our stories, and doing the best we can. And I
Yeah,
imagine your mom was also doing the very best she could.
yeah.
And, so I can imagine like listeners like being really, I mean, I don't know where your feelings are about it. I,
About now,
mhm.
oh, I've forgiven my mom for everything. When I buried a child, I because my brother, and what happened to my brother, and the way that happened, and how my mom had to go through all of that. Well, in 2009, when I sat through the entire trial and had to hear for 1 year straight everything that my parents went through, I forgive everything at that point. And then when I buried my own child, it just hit I forgave everything, because you're absolutely right. She did the best she could do with what she had to work with. I mean, is it great that that happened to me? No, it's not. But guess what? It never happened to my little sisters,
Hmm.
because I made absolute sure that they knew what drug addiction looked like. They knew that their sister they once knew was now mean and would hit them and was just awful. And I let them know that that is because of the substances that I've put in my body from a young age, and neither one of them have ever had an addiction problem.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I mean, I'm
Well,
glad it was me and not them.
I totally hear that. Totally hear that. And wow, what the power of forgiveness. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
We always, I'm always thinking of that phrase, that hurt people, right?
yeah,
And the people we love and would never dream of or want to, and it happens. And frankly, I was talking to my sponsor about this, because you mentioned, right, so I told the one person, and and then she didn't do a good job, and that was my mom too, and I've been carrying a lot of bitterness and resentment, and
yeah,
well, honestly, just at the bottom of it, at the base of it, just hurt and sadness and grief.
yeah,
for losing a relationship that I so deeply treasured. She was once really important in my life. And so I just went through an exercise within the past couple of weeks to actually like really um, think that through and offer her, into the universe, compassion and forgiveness. And so, you know, and
Yeah.
while I don't expect that we'll have a relationship, and I know that you and your mom were able to, move forward and have relationship. I don't expect that on my side, but I do wish her the best. And
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So yeah,
And that's beautiful growth on your end.
right, man.
You know
Something
what I
new every
mean?
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
not every day, but
But
every
yeah.
day. Thank God for my sponsor.
I know. Ditto.
Well, let's shift a little bit then, I guess, into talking about that kind of journey into
Yes.
recovery.
So, I just found it really relatable when you talked about, the pep talks and, when people want to offer you like advice that often we didn't ask for. And it, so often the times it was like, or you can do it, or, I'm here, or buck up, or, even one day at a time sometimes would be just it didn't set well, and oftentimes it would like drive me deeper into despair, from and sometimes even in relapse mode. And I'm just wondering, when you're for you personally too, when you're having a bad day, and for whatever reason, anxiety, depression, events that we're grieving, and or relapse mode, and somebody comes in and tries to do those pep talks, if you experience the same thing, if it makes you more just sad, melancholy, despair, whatever it is that your emotion that you're feeling, does it make that worse for you as well?
Yeah, often, yeah. Uh, I mean, especially kind of varies. I think across my timeline, I could say that in response to a number of things, but what comes to mind when I think about that question is that, and when I think about the things that people have said to me over time, is one of two kind of big reactions, at least the initial reactions. One is who the hell are you, right? And like this
Yeah.
kind of just resentful, like I said, it makes me want to scratch your eyes out. Like,
Yeah.
like, what do you know? Who do you think you are? Like, you don't know my story and what I've been through, and like I'd like to see you do better, those kinds of
Right.
things.
Yeah.
And that, but that was probably like, that usually, if that comes up first, it usually gives way to the other thing that might also be the only thing, or might also be a first response, which is that I feel bad about myself
Yeah.
because, and can send me down into this kind of depression, I guess. I mean, just to put it simply, because I remember one time talking with a colleague, and it was a part of preparing for a project we were going to work on. And, this is post, I've been sober, a while by this point. And I made a comment about, the impacts of trauma, and sometimes, really struggling and needing to just, kind of check out or whatever. And she said, well, that's why it's important to, do the, it's like healthy things, or something. It was really judgmental. and I was and I was a little bit pissed, but I actually really did internalize it. Like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, you know, get there? Why, and yeah. So, I mean, of course, that wasn't, a direct, like, because I was doing better, like I wasn't using at the time, but I was still using a lot of behaviors, I guess, I think that are still really unhealthy, right? Because I was still grappling with my trauma, like, and not, I, that was all still really alive in me,
Yeah.
right? And not like I think it ever like fully goes away, the grief and sadness of the loss of our kiddos, and you know
Yeah.
and things we have been through, those things will come up from time to time, but I think.
Yeah, for me, it it's the same exact thing. Like, when somebody says what you should do, or and then to me, what happens is, or what has happened and what does happen sometimes, is that I isolate, because I don't want, because it's like, who the hell are you? You don't know anything, like you said, about me, and nobody does, because nobody else that I know has been through that. So then it's like, so why even bother? And then I start isolating, which leads to the depression, which leads to that. But then that brings me back to the behaviors that I'm trying to work on. And because we're abstinent, it doesn't mean that we're cured, and that we don't have these behaviors that will come up. And so that's when I try to put myself and my emotion, I don't want to use the word in check, but be aware of what's going on, because there's an underlying emotion that's there.
Right, right.
And so, I just related to your answer. That's all.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really important to bring up because I mean, obviously, as we heal and grow and recover, we learn, how to, fortify ourselves, and, to be end up starting to actually use those healthy behaviors and things. Those become a part of us and a part of our lives.
Yeah.
But until then, and especially when we're active in our addiction, and or really wrestling with depression, or a related mental health issue, I think that our loved ones will, are like grasping for something to do to help us, right? So those are like really well intentioned, right?
Yeah.
I know these for the most part, these are really well
Yeah.
intentioned pep talks, right?
Yeah.
So I'm even, but they don't always work out that way, and can have like really dramatically opposite results.
I think
Curious if
it's
you have any thoughts on how, what folks can do better.
I think it's timing and delivery. But for me, for a lot of it, it's not so much what you're saying to me, but it's how you're saying it and when you're saying it. That makes all the difference in the world to me, because I love you and I'm concerned for you, and I feel helpless because I don't know what to do for you. So I'm going to say something, anything that I think is going to alleviate some of your pain. But if you say certain things, or if you say it at a certain tone or at a certain time, it can be so detrimental. So it's like, I guess, if you're going to say it, I guess know the person that you're saying it to, I guess, enough to kind of know those things, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, we're not perfect. It's not always going to turn out that way, but I think just, and I'm a big reading the room.
Mm.
Like, before you go into, like, sometimes, like, we've talked about this so many times in so many of our episodes, is the silent partner.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes maybe you just sit there and rub their leg or rub their arm, or to me, in a perfect world, I imagine me grabbing you, and I don't know for people that are familiar with Grey's Anatomy, but grabbing you, and when they say, let's dance it out, and then we just dance it out, you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of thing, like, I wish, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
But I think sometimes that silent support is exactly what we need. And I know that's hard for the people that love us when we're in the, in the thick of it. It's like, well, I don't know how to just sit here. I need to be doing something. I need to be helping you, but that is helping us more than you can imagine.
Right.
So I think timing, delivery, tone, and sometimes just knowing to do nothing,
Yeah.
just simply be in the same room, and
And
also
keep showing up.
distraction.
Oh, sorry. Say again.
Oh, and distraction. Let's go on a walk. Because if you change the environment, let's go on a walk. Let's turn on the song that we know is like, don't worry, be happy. A song that we know takes us to our happy place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are just a few things to me that makes a difference in my personal life, and what helps me.
Yeah. I mean, this is really, I appreciate all of that. And it's really kind of clicking in and making some sense. I have a good friend who other good friends are really worried about. And of course, I'm worried about him too. And I got to see him recently, and you know, I could see how advanced his disease is, and because I've been there, I know what that looks like, and it's coming to that point where you know I have another friend who didn't make it, right?
Yeah.
She lost the battle with the disease, and
It's happening. It's
right,
out
and so I can see that coming with him, and I know other people who even like don't have that experience to be able to see it and just be in like panic and worry. And what I said to another friend, to one of our friends, because I was like, I just I can't tell you really what's going on, but all I said was, just please keep showing up. Please
right.
just keep showing up, checking in, just be a friend, and let him know you're there. And when he's ready, at least he'll know that he's not alone, you know?
Right. And see, I sometimes, when it comes down to brass tacks and we need to save a life, I support interventions. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing of it is we're going to have an intervention solely about the solution and not about your problem. We know you're an addict. You know you're an addict. We don't need to dig and claw and beat that horse to death. We need to come here, and our letters need to be about how we're going to support you and how we're going to help you, and that you're not a bad person. We're not mad at you. We don't blame you. We just want to be here so that we can help you create the life that you always dreamed about. It
Beautiful.
doesn't matter if you just used weed one little time in college or you've been an addict junkie for 25 years. That's neither here nor there. What we're talking about here is the life you dream of, not what I dream for you, not what great grandma dreams for you, not what society says you should have, but what you dream of.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is, when I think about if somebody, I'm sorry, but somebody would have cared enough about me at, this is just how I feel, at some point in time in my life, to give me an intervention, that it would have been about my dream and how to support me to get to my dream. And that's what I say a lot to my clients. I'm here to talk about your dream. how do you want your life to look? Is it in a cabin? Is it in a skyrise? Is it on a farm? What does your dream look like? Because that's what this conversation is about, is getting you to your dream. And so that is another thing that makes all the difference. Because often it's like, well, you started doing dope when you were 12 and you were a dropout, and you were a truant, and you were, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah. Now, what else you got for me? I've heard that my whole life. This is old news, pal.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Right.
you're
Not
wasting my
trying to,
time.
yeah, and shaming people. Honestly, I felt enough shame. I didn't need anybody to
Yeah,
stack any on top of it. All they
exactly.
were going to do was suffocate me,
Yeah,
or cause me to run away. And
right.
so I love this different framing, and it
Yeah,
being all in the solution and oriented to that person's life. And
yeah,
thank you. That's actually,
yeah. I just think it's critical, especially when we're dealing with our youth. I
oh,
mean, kids are getting younger and younger when they're getting turned on to substances and whatnot. And it's like, I think they have that coming from their parents, their teachers, their probation officers, they're, everywhere. The kids that treat them like there's something wrong with them, that judge, and just all of that. It's like, I think that's what they get, is even if it's not intentional, it comes out as the shaming, and something's wrong with you. My dad used to say, what is wrong with you? There's what is wrong with you? What goes on in your head? I'm like, you don't want to know. But then that got me thinking, something's definitely wrong with me, and that's not it.
when
That's just
and when
not
there
it.
wasn't something wrong with you, there was something wrong with the circumstances that you had to cope with,
Right,
and given the tools to to do something different.
right,
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Well, let's keep going. Looks
Yeah,
like,
I just think that I like the piece, kind of talking about what we're continuing on what we're talking about, is when you talked about realizing now that you can do things, clean and sober, hard things,
mhm,
because life is going to throw hard things at us constantly. But it makes me happy to say that, yes, you can do the hard things, because you can you can put in your arsenal of all the things that I see when I see you, but you're an overcomer. We are overcomers. Everybody out there with this disease, or that are just going through anything in general, is an overcomer. And so I can tell you all day long that you're an overcomer.
mhm.
But in the past, I never, and still getting better, but got some work to do. Don't tell myself as often. Like, sometimes I don't give myself enough credit where credit is due, because if you stop and think about what, and reading the pieces kind of brings that up for me, just what it is that we've done to get where we are today. And I think that I'm just wondering if you take the time to just really just be proud of yourself, and to give yourself credit, and to brag on yourself, if you will, even if it's just to yourself. You know what I mean? Because I think that I don't do that enough. And I'm just wondering how often, or if you find that easy to do, or kind of harder to do on your own self.
It's a great question. And it's hard sometimes for me still. I will say, when I'm making bigger, better progress on, is limiting and doing away with the negative self-talk. Right, so there's that side of it, and then there's the, like, patting yourself on the back and like being proud of yourself, and like, you're freaking amazing. I will say that, well, I'll get to the amazing part in a minute. but little things like I have this. Let's see. There's the camera. This little jar here.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So this is for I have these, little orange sticky notes that have, like that I will write on one side, this is bullshit, and on the other side, it's the negative self-talk that might come up. Write it down, crumple it up, and put it in the jar. And it's just like I'm just gonna bottle y'all up because I don't need you anymore. Like that is old. That's not mine. I had a therapist one time tell me that like that stuff you're telling yourself, that is not yours. That came from some other bullshit that was
yeah,
bullshit at the time, is bullshit now, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so honestly, I am getting much stronger in recognizing the judgment as it comes up. Luckily, this new sponsor I have is like, I don't know, I'm growing so quickly with her help because this is one of the things. She's like, nope, that's a judgment. Throw it away. And so that's a big thing. And I am beginning to really do better positive self talks like you're talking about, because I really do believe in how in this fact that we are we have done Herculean things. i
yeah,
I don't doubt for a second what you and I can do in this life. I, not for a second, because it's, I mean, we've shown it. Basically, we've proven ourselves how amazing we are, and and it's sometimes still hard. So the my insecurity has come up recently in my, my pursuit of writing, and it's a dream, and so all this like anxiety comes up, and I'm like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, right? And I put this thing out, I don't know, last month or a couple months ago, inviting people to come do online like creating with me and online writing
yeah.
with me, just
I love that.
basically like office hours, right? But
Yeah.
when I did it, I put a little clip with it in Instagram. I put a little clip of a song from Team Drush called She's Amazing.
Yes.
And I just was like, when I need it, I'll just like play that song over and over again. And I'm like, talking about you, girl.
That
To
I
myself.
love that. I love that. So I just want to share a couple of things that has been working for me lately. So I've been working in this specific type of therapy. It's called internal family systems, and it brings up a lot of your parts, and your parts are the different ages of your trauma, right? And so a lot of the ages of my parts that have been coming up are younger ages, when I was just a wee little kid. And so my therapist told me to put my hands across my chest like this, and to close my eyes and be like in a very relaxed stance, and rub. I'm going to take my glasses off for a minute and rub right under your eyes and on your cheeks in the most soft. It instantly takes me to this most cared for and protected place. It just it is, it seems like it's something so small, but it's so huge. And then the other one is, you take your hand like this, your thumb is pointing towards you, and then you take this hand where your thumb is pointing the other way, and you tap on this for anxiety. I know it seems really weird, but if you get it to your own rhythm, it like really helps.
Oh,
And so these little small things. So I spent my whole life as an addict, like beating myself up, whether it be with men that beat me, or drugs, or alcohol, or whatever. But now I'm learning to love on myself, And that helps in ways I can't imagine. And the other one is because I have a huge character defects and problems with negative self-talk and negative mindset. Okay, so this is kind of dorky, but you know the song "Eye of the Tiger," dun 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 dun. You know Rocky.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I start feeling down on myself, or if I start letting the, oh, you're not that good, you know, the negative self-talk that comes up, then I picture myself and I'm like either punching a punching bag or I'm just up like free punching and that song is on and I'm just like dun 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 and it makes me feel like strong, right? It makes me feel physically strong and then in
Yeah.
turn makes me feel mentally strong.
Ah, I love it. Totally
So
love it.
everybody out there that's listening, like dun 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 dun, and this on the other end of it, that it all fun being set aside, it is a game changer for me.
Yeah. See,
So
these are the things like we were talking, right? The tools that we can reach for now, right?
yes,
Learning new tools to help manage
yeah,
the stuff
and
that like we said, we're going to be healing, growing, I mean, for a
yeah,
lifetime. And yeah, lovely that we can now have.
share it, and you know, I just and when I positive self talk myself, it's like you are such a badass. Like, think about it. You're a warrior. You're a survivor. Like, you are superior. You are worth it. You are, and I just rah rah rah, because that's my personality. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But at the end of that, and then the I feel happy and good and strong and I could go about my day, you
Yeah.
know. And so I at the end of the day I want everybody to dig down and deep and find their inner strength, because everybody is worthy of it. And when we have year after year after year after year of self-hate and self-esteem problems, we don't even know what that looks like. And now we take substances out of our life and we don't even know who we are and what we are, and what we even like, because we're just so used to doing what we think is going to please everybody else, that it's kind of cool to know that, you know, 4 years deep into my sobriety, that I'm super funny, and that, you know, all these things that I have about myself, that I like cheesy dad jokes, that
Yeah.
my favorite color is cobalt blue, and I love Chinese food, and you know, all these things that I never knew before, that makes me the authentic Noblelee,
Mm,
before trauma, before addiction, just me now, and me who I was meant to always be, but for whatever reason it took me a couple decades to get there. But if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, I promise you, whatever that looks like for you and your authentic self, it will
yeah.
happen for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you don't have to, it, like you said, you don't, even if you can't begin to imagine it or see it or feel it right,
yeah,
right? It's, you are not lost, right?
no, no,
Oh,
you're on your way of just being to your happy place. You know, when I came crawling out from underneath that bridge in Olympia, Washington, I would have told you you're batshit crazy if you would have told me. I would be sitting here right now thinking I'm funny and I'm a badass at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Do I still have character defects and flaws, and do I have to work at my recovery every single day, and my depression and my things? I do.
yeah.
But learning that I can be Rocky, and I can give my own self love, and I can, and that's going to get me through my day. Awesome. And to share it with anybody out there that might say, hey, that's fucking crazy enough to try.
Right?
And then
I mean, hell, what I
yeah,
know is that my life was pretty damn crazy toward the end of my drinking career.
yeah,
So, you
yeah,
know, it's honestly that but that is
Yeah.
definitely like not even close to as crazy as that is my whole
No,
thing.
not even a
Worth a
right.
shot, I say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's let's check in for a minute on what we were, the plans. We have a lot of questions actually for each other, and I'm just
yeah,
noting our, timing, and it feels
yeah,
like this is a really kind of beautiful, almost beginning to transition away. Do you want to maybe talk just kind of more, call out just a few of the things that like really helped us in our sobriety, right? So like skipping
yeah,
a couple of questions here, talk about just some of those practical things that really helped us, and then kind of begin to tran you know
yeah,
wrap up.
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I just think that when I first came in, I didn't, when I first got sober, I didn't want to be in the rooms. I didn't want to sit in those meetings. I didn't give a shit what people had to say, or I thought it was fake, really. I couldn't think that everybody could possibly be that excited to be sober. And it almost pissed me off in the beginning. It's like, oh, please. Yeah, okay.
A
You know what
lot
I
of
mean?
eye
But
rolls, I remember.
oh, all of it. I'm just like, we actually made a joke at the meeting last night that I was actually nominated to start chairing last night, which was really cool. But
Cool.
they called me Stompy, because I literally was, stomped in there. And anyway, I guess what helped me was I a sponsor definitely was the game changer for me. And I just so happened to be, for the first sponsor that I ever got and the first steps I ever worked, happened to be a phenomenal sponsor. And when I first looked at her, I was like, I'm going to chew her up and spit her out, literally, literally. And she was like, give me a gratitude list, 90 meetings in 90 days. And was like Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, whoa, what? But I needed her, and I needed her toughness, and I needed her to call me out on my shit.
Yeah.
I really did. And so I got lucky. But if you are seeking out a sponsor and the one doesn't work for you, you need to almost shop around, because that sponsor in the thick of your relapse mode, and they are going to be the ones that talk you down.
Yep.
And if you don't feel like I can go to the ends of the earth with this male or female or whoever that my sponsor is, and I can break it down, and I can be raw and honest. And I used to scream at her. I used to cuss at her. I would throw myself on the ground. I would kick and scream and say, I'm not doing it. And she every time would talk me down. So my advice would be, you're not going to hurt somebody's feelings if you say, I'm going to go ahead and continue to look. It's your recovery. You have to fight for yourself, and 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 do the meetings. Go and show up, and I guess not just sit in a chair, not just sit in a chair, but to listen and find the similarities, because that's what first made me realize maybe I am in the right spot, was listening and going, oh man, oh, she knows, she really does know what I'm going through, because guess what? Her story sounds a lot like my story. And then another thing and do what your sponsor says. She made me do some crazy crap. And I thought it was ridiculous. And I told her, this is batshit crazy and stupid. But guess what? I did it every time.
Yeah.
And now I'm telling my sponsee, I'm going to have you do some batshit crazy stuff. And it's the same stuff that I didn't want to do, but did.
Right. Because we
So
know it works, right?
it does. And it might seem crazy, but try it. Just
Yeah.
try it.
Yeah.
and to work and do work the steps and work them honestly.
Yeah.
Because that's when the true healing started for me, is that brutal honesty, the kind that hurts and it's icky and it's uncomfortable, and it makes you not want to do it. But it's like they say in the program, it's like you're an onion. And in the beginning, it's really hard to get that first layer, that tough part of the onion off. But the more work you do, the more the layers come off, and the sweetest spot of the onion is in the middle. And then you're working and you're getting to that sweet spot, and then you have to, and the rest of the onion is you continuing to work on that sweet spot. You know what I mean? So do that, and reach out. And a lot of times, what my sponsor would tell me was, if you get on your big ass porcelain pity pot, she'd say, I want you to grab a phone list and I want you to call somebody else in recovery. And I'm like, no, this is about me. Why the hell would I want to call somebody else in recovery? That's dumb. But when I did, by the time I got done with that conversation, I was thrilled that, for one, I could be of service to somebody else. But generally, almost every single time, the person on the other end of the line had something that I needed in that phone call, just as much as I had something that they needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also, almost most importantly, of all that, is do what you love, like being by the water. I love playing my native drum. I love riding my bike with music in my ears. I love, because a lot of the times when we're just trying to do the bump and grind, a lot of the times we're having to go to court appearances, and we're having to get our driver's license back and pay fines and find work and find a place to live, and do all those things. When we first get into recovery, we kind of lose sight of the things that make us feel human, and the things that fill our gas tanks up. Because if we're just running on empty and just trying to robot our way through all of this stuff and be clean and sober, um, we're going to put ourselves in rough, choppy waters and dangerous waters. But if we're doing the things that make us breathe, it's
Mhm.
important to do that.
And
Oh,
feel. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, so much of what we're doing in our, you know, in reacting to trauma and dealing with our addiction is actually separating ourselves from ourselves, right? Like trying
yeah,
to not feel and all of that. So yeah, letting in the bits of good. Um,
yeah,
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 that what brings what joy may feel far off at
yeah,
first, but
yeah.
there are little things that make us, soothe us or make us feel good. Mine is water is a big thing for me too, and nature. If we could just take a break and just breathe and be.
Right. And the natural endorphins, like you love yoga, and I love, right now I've been into water fitness and stuff like that, because a lot of people, once they get into a little bit more stable, headspace, when they're getting into recovery, they go to the gym and they go to the natural endorphins, because I suggest that,
Yeah, me too. And
you
it's
know.
interesting, like the more recovery you get, the more time you get, the more like the good stuff piles on, and it like that
Yeah.
steamrolls. It
Yeah.
steamrolls in a good way, the way all of our
Yep.
bad shit steamrolled in the other way,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really beautiful. I wanted
How
to.
about you, Megan? What really kind of helped you? A lot of the same stuff, probably, I'm guessing,
Yeah,
but
a lot of the same stuff. First, my need to like control everything, and this just being really like thinking, oh, I'm so smart, I thought I was so clever, and all sorts of things in my drinking career. And I get into the rooms and I'm just so like, the way other people were doing it, I just, would piss me off, or I'd be like, oh, that's not going to work for me. And, and would want to like, you know, say fuck it all because, something that wouldn't work for me. So like one of the biggest pieces of advice that I have for people is to like really try to let go of that urge. It seems like a lot of people have their own version of that. And it's like, look, focus on the things that seem like they could be helpful for you. And just, like forget about the other things. Like a lot of people have an issue with the God thing. That was a big barrier for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They talked about it doesn't matter. Like your higher power could be anything. It's a God of your understanding. If it needs to be good orderly direction that you get from this group, then by all means. And so I was like, okay, that helped me, settle in and really focus on the other things about the program that worked. And number
Yeah.
one of which really, really was similar, my sponsor. And she also kind of addressed my, thinking I was so smart about everything and I knew what to do. She's like, you are not so smart, you are dumb.
Yeah.
She's like,
Right.
you're your thinking got you here. So
Yeah.
just, to prove a point right now, like you're not dumb, like you as
Yeah.
a human being aren't dumb, but
Yeah.
right now you
Yeah.
got you've got alcohol programming in your brain, and that is going to try to drive you back to a drink. And so your thoughts don't get to matter right now. So you do what I say. And I'm like, and that's what my friend
Yeah.
told me to do. She's like, you go do what they say. I'm like, okay, fine. I will do what you say. And in the first things she told me to do was other than don't make any decisions yourself, call me when you have a decision to
Yeah. Yeah.
make. And then two was to start every day with my three things that I was grateful for. And it didn't matter how big or small. So, and that is something I did fall away from. I mean, I fell away from all of the program kind of after basically when I moved away from my first home group, which was just so amazing and so like got me on the right track. And then I got back into a little bit of my own ego thinking like, oh, and then, I'm fine. I'm fine. I go to, meetings and they weren't great in the new place. And just, I
Yeah.
let that get in the way. And so I didn't work a very good program in, in the middle there, but having some of those key tools, including just the fact that I was so so white knuckling onto this. I will not drink again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't care what happens. I just won't. And so, which would have just been so much easier if I had been working about a better program. And luckily, um, I came, honestly came into a point where things were starting to challenge that, and so I got back into the program
Yeah.
and got new sponsor. And I feel like everything has really really opened up, and now that I have really actually been able to fully work the program with the spiritual part of the program,
Yeah.
I just feel like
It's a game changer.
it is a game
It
changer.
doesn't have to be, it's the God is, it's the higher power as you understand him to be.
Right,
At
right.
first, I believed in God when I first got into program, but I was so angry, so angry. How could you, I just didn't understand it. And so I just came in super angry, and I too was a little bit turned off by that. But then somebody said it could be a doorknob as long as you believe that doorknob is a better understanding of it than you do. You know what I mean? And then it wasn't before long that I started understanding. But there's just two more things that I forgot really quick that
Oh,
are really important. And one of them is do not, and I repeat, do not compare your recovery and your growth to somebody else's. That was so, it almost took me out, because it was like I had a best friend. We both got clean and sober at the same time. Well, she went on to buy a very fancy car, I still was riding my bicycle. She went on to get into her own place. I was still jumping from recovery house to recovery house. She, and she got the job right away. I was still working at Burger King. And so I it almost took me out because I was just not, I just thought that what is wrong with me? Why am I not doing all those things yet? And so I just want everybody to know that your recovery doesn't look like anybody else's. It looks like yours at the end of the day. And I don't remember it all right now, but if you read the promises, the third step promises, there's a couple things in there that really stick out to me. And one of them is you will lose interest in yourself and gain interest in your fellows, and that is so true. And then this is the one that really is so true, and it is we will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. And that's what I want to leave people with is it's true. We get through these days one day at a time for 10 years and one day at a time for 4 in our situations. And we no matter how we're doing it clean and sober. And these situations that we're walking through here now would absolutely baffle us. And now it's like, well, we're doing this. And I don't know. Those were just a couple of the key points that just really stick out to me. The promises, they do come true. They do. And sometimes, again, part of the thing, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, as long as you work. Yeah.
That's right. These extravagant promises.
Yeah.
We think.
We think not. We don't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I actually, that's my favorite part of every meeting, actually,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the promises, because
Yeah.
more and more as time goes on, it feels so true to me. And
Yeah, me too.
it, yeah, and you're right, it's not a cookie cutter thing. It really does look different for everybody. It's as different as we all are. We are
Yeah.
complex, individual, unique people, and what we have our own dreams, and those promises
Right.
come in the shape of us, right?
Well, in those meetings, I know that I can't walk into any given fast food restaurant or any given, public place like that and have every single person in that establishment be just like me in the sense of they're drunks or addicts. You know what I mean? And that is very very comforting to me when you walk into a meeting, because it for me, not everybody might not do this, but for me, I truly am my authentic self. Like and everybody says they appreciate my shares because they're raw,
Yeah,
because they're real,
yeah,
because that is what saved my life. And maybe that shares what's going to save somebody else's is the rawness. And do I go in there every day and say, woo, life is amazing and I'm shitting glitter and yay, recovery rocks? Hell no. I'm real. I'm like, this fucking sucks. And it was hard to get up and brush my teeth today. But guess what? I dug deep and I dug. And here I am, and here I am. And the newcomer may need to hear that.
yeah.
It's not perfect, but I got here. And I guarantee that I'm going to leave here a better person than when I walked through the doors here,
Oh
because
yeah.
everybody there has been in the situation that I'm in one way or another.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't, it will all in some kind, some flavor of it, right? And
yeah,
it is also what I love about this room. I know that I will be understood. Like,
that's it.
I will be understood, I will be accepted, and
Oh
I will
yeah.
be supported
Yep.
exactly as I am. I
That
can't
is
I
that's
can't
it.
think of another place in this world that I can say that.
No, me neither.
It's one of the most beautiful things about the program to me. And and in fact, I was rereading the beginning of the big book the other day, and I just like, it's funny at this point to to read it and like think about how I read it, back in the day, and then reading it with, all of these years behind, and realize, oh yeah, this is the strength. I mean, this is by design. It was made to hold all of us, no matter who we are, no matter what we're bringing. And this is it. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I guess the one little thing that you said something that made me remember one other thing, which we can in our disease we can be very, very selfish, self-centered, self-focused. And one of the things that has helped me over time, often helps me, is to get out of myself and to get in to service to others. So I think it's like when your sponsor was saying, you know call somebody else in the program, and in everything, whether it's making coffee for the meeting, or staying after to clean up, or I started doing childcare uh,
Yeah,
for the one of the meetings at a week at the new place where I go to meetings. They have uh, it's specifically a childcare meeting, so I have started doing
that's so
that.
awesome. I love
Right? I
that.
mean, it's just,
Yeah,
being in service. I, go and do a meeting at the women's shelter, and you know, uh, yeah, these are things we show up for others.
that's right.
Yeah, and that helps me every time.
Me too.
Oh my God. Well, this has been like just so, I feel good. Like I feel like we've
I
kind of done
feel good too. I
that.
it's just another amazing like thing that we have in common, but I just feel like there was so much good stuff in here that needed to kind of go out in the airwaves, and for somebody to hear it tonight, because I just feel like I think it definitely make a difference for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So we will definitely get this out there. I do think, if you don't mind, can we just answer the one big wish question? What's one big wish you have that, if fulfilled, you believe would make this a better world?
I just I think I think honestly, like more treat well, better understanding from people and less judgment, honestly, and just and people staying humble. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, unfortunately, people get some sobriety and they forget where it is where they came from. You know what I mean? And just no matter what, just stay humble and remember where you came from, and remember what you needed there, and offer that hand out to somebody else. We need more we need more organizations where you can come in off the street your authentic self. You could come in loaded, you can come in depressed, you can come in suicidal, you can come in wherever you are in life, and you will have somebody there to walk you through it, if you will, to help you, to not judge you, to let you be, just have a spot where you can go and where you can be. You
Yeah.
know, we need more beds and more shelters and more second chance programs, where it doesn't matter what it looks like on papers, as long as you're not, there's certain things, but it doesn't matter if you have a criminal history, or you don't look perfect, or you don't look norm, or you're transgender, or you have pronouns, or whatever, wherever you are, just to know that there's more places that you can walk into, and everybody's not going to go, ugh, and instantly make you feel like cringy.
Yeah.
Like nobody deserves to feel cringy.
Yeah.
Like,
Wouldn't it be
no.
wonderful if every place was like an AA meeting.
Every place you just got to go in there and it's not like, oh, she's white. Oh, her teeth are good. Oh, she has a good body. Oh, look, she rolled up in a Sadie's. No, it doesn't matter because guess what? We all have the same skin. We all bleed the same red blood. And it should just be that way across the board. There's no classes and no, status. And we're just, at the end of the day, we're just people. And we're people that need to support people because the world's not going to get any better because there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of stereotypes and there's a lot of us with our children and our grandchildren growing up thinking there's something wrong with them. We have 10-year-old 9-year-olds on diets
Yeah.
because the commercials are telling them that they're not, that they're not okay because they have their adolescent chubby on them that they're supposed to have. It just, I guess I just want there to be more resources and more places where people can go, no matter what, no matter if they're under the influence at the time or they're not, or they're homeless or they're housed or they're employed or they're not, and get help and get resources and be welcomed in a place where they know they're in the right spot, like in a meeting,
Yeah.
just welcomed like that.
Love that.
And I think just more people staying humble and remembering where they were. And I would have so many shelters. There would be so many less mansions and so many hoods full of shelters for everybody that needed help and needed to be accepted and needed to be loved. Because I don't think that people realize, I mean, I know some people realize, but as a whole, people realize what it is to not have a single person in your world ever tell you that they love you,
Right.
that you matter, that this world would not be okay without them in it.
Yeah.
Like to go decades without somebody saying, I love you. I'm glad you're here. My favorite thing to say besides I love you to somebody is I'm glad that you're in my life.
That's right.
That kind of says it all.
Yep. Same.
And I think random acts, just the last in closing, random acts of kindness, because you might see a gal in Burger King that maybe she's not good looking, if you will, or whatever. Maybe her head's hung a little bit and she's kind of unsure of herself and she's holding herself, like, compliment her.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell her, man, I really love, this is what I always do. I really love your blouse.
Yeah.
I can't believe how good you look today. I just do that over and over and over again. And that to me, I walk away going, man, I did that.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of see out of your peripherals as you're walking away, that person is glowing. And they're gonna maybe write on that compliment on their blouse for the entire week, month. How do we know?
And it took nothing for you to do it, right?
Nothing. Nothing. And then that's why I stick with my title as a hope dealer.
Yeah.
That's part of that.
Yep. Noblelee hope dealer.
Yes,
I love it.
That's happening.
What
about your dream? Tell me.
I have a bunch as well. I think though, okay, so we'll see if I stick with one. But one just really practical thing is that I would like therapy and drug and alcohol treatment to be available for free to everyone as much as they need it. I just, for me, the idea that so many people go without the help that they need because the people that they happen to be kind of born into in their lives are racked with pain and hurt and like low skill themselves, so the person's just like on their own and then can't access the help that they need, because there's a waiting list for 6 months to get into the limited free services that there are. And you know what, in 6 months they're probably not going to be ready to
So
access it
true.
anymore, right?
So
So
true.
I think we change a whole lot of outcomes if help is ready, the right help. So it's culturally appropriate help, help that's going to be safe for people who are gay, transgender, that whatever the case may be, that the care we need, that we're able to get that and when we need it, and
Yes.
wherever we are. So
I think that is so important. That is so very true and so very important. And I'm I'm in this field every day, that's one of the biggest barriers
mhm,
is I right now I've got people on 4 to 6 month wait lists for mental health.
yeah, uh,
I've got them on um, your state health insurance isn't going to cover this in this treatment center. It's only going to cover this treatment center. But guess what? They're not taking anybody in that until October.
right, yeah, oh yeah.
So yeah, that you hit it. You hit it just
I remember
right
that
on the mark
from
with that.
way back in the day when I was doing domestic violence work. I
Yeah.
also trying to work and help people access the help they needed, and
Yeah.
over again. And this was, a couple of decades ago, and the help wasn't there then. And my understanding is it's even worse now.
It
So,
is.
a whole lot of things would need to change to make that possible. But I think if we are concerned about the crises that this country is facing, that's we ought to find a way to do it.
I
And
am in
I
complete
am gonna
agreement.
I am gonna add one other thing. I did say
Okay.
one thing, but I will add one other thing. Is my wish would be that we could slow down. That the pace of our world, our expectations
Yeah.
of each other, all of this, that we could just take it down a few notches, make some more space. I tell you,
Yeah.
just listening to a number of people that we've heard, Quika's coming to mind.
Yeah.
My own change in my lifestyle to one that actually afforded some space to take care of myself. I know Quika talked about that time she needed to just focus on
Yeah.
healing, to give just some more space and less harshness and pressure, and give things now with each other.
Yeah.
I think that would make a lot more room for all of us to be a bit more human, you know
Yes.
and
Yeah.
generous with each other,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah. So, oh, thank you for uh,
Ah,
doing that.
it's-
Sometime I wanted this collection of all of like everybody's wishes. I just think it would be
yes,
a
I
lot.
would love
That's
that.
a vision for down the road with people
Yes,
to these questions. So,
absolutely. I love it.
so let's go ahead and move into close. I do want to note this would be the point where we would normally be announcing our guests. We are still working on our guests for next time. So
Yeah.
I will put out a pitch right now that we really would like to incorporate more story episodes this year. So please let us know if you're listening and you would be willing to share some part of your own survival story. It
Yeah.
big, small, it doesn't matter. We just want to hear what folks have been going through, what's
Yeah.
worked, what's been helpful, what's not been helpful, what
Yeah.
we can do better. The big grand we, universal we, what can be done better out there in our systems and for each other. So think about that. If there's something come into mind for you, it's a story that you would like to tell and share with others and help others, we would really love to hear from you. You can
Yes.
also also would like to invite you to share with us if you have a question that you have been struggling with about, how to help somebody else, or, maybe it's something in your own life, then that maybe you'd like us to talk about how that's shown up in our own lives, or maybe even or talking with a guest about that as well. So please feel free to share a question or a topic that you're curious about, and we will, yeah, we'll put together an episode about that. So we'd really love
Yes.
to get your voices more involved in here in that way as well. So please feel free to contact us through Facebook or the Community Wisdom website if you're interested or have a suggestion. So you'll be able to find that at the end of the recording of this conversation. So now to my favorite part of the evening, Noblelee.
Yes, our two best favorite medicines are laughter and water. So this joke is, I don't know.
Okay,
We're just gonna say it.
good.
So, why did the toilet paper roll have a hard time crossing the street? Because it kept getting stuck in the crack.
I love it.
I know. It's
That was a good one. That was
but
a good
it makes me laugh. That's my
one.
cheesy dad joke for you.
Excellent, excellent. I love it. And with that, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.
Yeah, be well all. Bye bye.